I've said every year for years now that anime is getting better and better, and I still believe that. So of course that means 2024 was one of the best years ever for anime. There were so many great returning and brand new series, honestly way too many to list, but these are my top 10 of the year. So unlike my normal seasonal overviews, I will be including sequels in this list too, but two core shows that started last year won't be eligible until next year. Of course, just because I don't list something doesn't mean that it wasn't great, but I'd be here talking all day if I listed everything I like. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Bokuyaba is one of those series where everyone hyped it up for being peak romance and all the other stuff dudes on Twitter say, but they were actually right this time. This was absolutely incredible. The series as a whole was amazing, but the second season that aired last year was really one of the best 12 episode runs for a romance anime that we've ever seen. And I don't mean that lightly either. Like, the two leads' development and the gradual build up to the finale was stellar and just made the ending so sweet. I think it's one of the best ever depictions of the fragility of youth as well, and showing all the mental, physical, and emotional changes that kids go through as they transition to high school. Yeah, it's got its fan service moments, but for the most part, it stays on task and it's just a really wholesome story about two people who on the surface couldn't be more different, realizing all that they have in common and growing together. The art and animation are gorgeous. Ushio Kensuke did the soundtrack. He also did Koi no Kutachi, a silent voice, a film that has literally saved my life and changed my life. So yeah, not only was this one of the best shows of the year, but one of the best romance anime ever in my opinion. Seeing a Nier Automata anime seems so surreal because I remember people posting on Reddit every day for months asking about the possibility, and everyone would just shoot it down as being impossible to adapt as an anime. Well, A1 Pictures apparently didn't get the memo because they made the impossible possible. Not only doing the complex story justice, but actually taking it to new heights and surpassing the game in some cases. I know it's crazy, but it's true. The final core that aired in 2024 was just amazing from start to finish. It covered probably the most difficult section of the game to adapt, and it just did it flawlessly. Normally, there's always something you lose with adapting a game with multiple endings and routes like Nier Automata, but A1 didn't make it feel like that. Instead, they added new characters and actually expanded on the world and made me feel more into it than the game at times. That's not saying to not go play the game, absolutely go play it, but this was one of the best video game adaptations of all time. 9S resonated with me so much more in this than in the game. A2 was already great, but she's even better here. And of course, 2B is, well, 2B. Also loved all the references to wider Draknir lore that they threw in. We got a few replicant references, so hopefully we see that in Drakengard as anime one day. That would be really cool. But no doubt, this was one of the best shows of the year. Nigoriri, or 2.5 Dimensional Seduction, was probably the most pleasant surprise of the year for me. I came into this expecting your usual goombait because of the cosplay stuff, but boy was I wrong. This was actually one of the most wholesome and well-written shows of the year. Yeah, it's got some ecchi stuff with the cosplays themselves, but that's not the focus of the show, believe it or not. It's more so about how cosplay as a hobby is an art form and used to express your feelings and becoming more confident in yourself. Bro, I talked about this show non-stop for like 6 months. I know my Twitter followers were probably so confused because it flew relatively under the radar, so not everyone knew what it was, but I pushed the agenda hard. The main character is so well written. He's got the whole I don't like 3D girls gimmick, but it works without being too cringe in this because of his whole backstory and trauma. And he's one of the rare harem protagonists that actually deserves the harem just because of how he helps the girls overcome their trauma and grow. And it's not like the simple, oh, he helped me 1 episode ago, so now I'm in love sort of thing. The arcs were actually decent length and they all really ended satisfactorily where you could see how these girls fell in love with this guy. Believe it or not, I know it's gonna sound crazy, but this is the show that actually made me cry the most last year. It was genuinely amazing. Don't let the goombait stuff in the first couple episodes turn you off. I'm begging. It's really a surprisingly layered story with some great characters, great writing, and really one of the best shows of the year, no doubt. So I was really on the fence, really up until the last minute of writing this video about the 2 big girl band shows from last year. I went back and forth and it was kind of just a matter of which was the best show versus which I enjoyed more. So there's obviously no objective right or wrong answer with art, but I think a lot of people would probably say that Girls Band Cry was the overall better anime. It definitely had the better music since they're an actual band in real life, but I personally liked Yorukura more because of the characters and story. I'm also biased to Dogakobo as one of my favorite studios, but don't worry, I'll talk about Girls Band Cry in the honorable mentions. It was great too. I just think Yorukura was a great example of a story where people find each other at the perfect time in life. You have this group of girls who have a ton of trauma and emotional baggage, and they use music and art as an escape and a way to heal. It really dealt with anxiety, depression, the pressure to conform to society, and all of these things that teenagers go through. Plus, one big thing that I liked is that I felt the Yuri was better in this than in Girls Band Cry. Like, Girls Band Cry had a little bit of Yuri bait. If you watch the anime, you know what I'm talking about. But Yorukura, if you understand Japanese social cues and whatnot, it feels much more satisfying by the end. The individual character stories were also brilliant for me. I'm especially a fan of the trans representation we had in the series. The music was good. Not Girls Band Cry good, but it was good. And the show was extremely well directed, making me cry several times. I love this a lot. And like I said, even though it didn't have the quality of musical performances, I think the story and the characters made up for it. And I just simply enjoyed it a little bit more than Girls Band Cry. Man, where the hell do I start with Hibike Euphonium? This was a spiritual experience for me. Everyone knows I'm a massive KyoAni stan. I was in Japan when the fire happened. I went to the studio with other fans and paid my respects. And just seeing how the studio has bounced back and honored the memory of all those lost in that senseless tragedy has been nothing short of amazing. They not only came back, but came back stronger. Hibike Euphonium Season 3 is one of the best works they've ever made. It not only did the last books justice, but actually took them to the next level. Kamiko and the girls fighting for that national championship and overcoming all these setbacks was so satisfying. Nothing worth having in life ever comes easy, and it just made the final few episodes feel that much more impactful. I love the drama with new characters and Kamiko struggling to find her path in life. This was just great. It's not just one of the best sports anime ever, but again, just like Bokuyaba, it's a really good depiction of young people going through a pivotal time in their lives and trying to figure it all out. I really related to Kamiko a lot in this one, but the Yuri bait still haunts me. Like, come on, man, how you're gonna set us up for years just to back out at the end? In the books, apparently it's not as baity, but the anime staff definitely knew what they were doing. Still, that aside, this was amazing. So many emotional moments throughout the season that left me in tears. The show obviously looked gorgeous as KyoAni. In my opinion, it had the best story arc of the series so far. It's a lot of drama, but hey, that's what being a teenager is about. And I'm gonna miss this series so much. The author actually has another show airing this season, Hanashura, which be sure to subscribe and turn on alerts for, because that'll definitely be in my winter 2025 video. Seventh Loop is unequivocally one of the best villainous stories ever made. I was completely captivated with this one, from the badass female lead to Risha's design to her romance with Arnold. Everything was just so well done here, and it's a no-brainer for this one to be near the top of the list. Obviously, if you like villainous stuff or just shoujo sei in general, this is a must-watch, but I think even people who don't normally watch that sort of thing will really enjoy it. The two leads are so well written, they truly feel like complete human beings who start off in this sort of unplanned relationship, and by the end of the season have grown to trust in and rely on one another, but not in a codependent way. That's the big thing for me. Rish never becomes a damsel in distress. She's always so resourceful and trying to save herself from trouble rather than waiting on Arnold to save her. I say it all the time, but the best romances both in fiction and reality are when two complete individuals who have their own thing going on come together and make each other better. Not complete each other, but improve one another. And this show does that as well as any. The romance is important, but the character growth and the story are even more important here. Their relationship doesn't define them. And I haven't even talked about the story, which is really damn good. There's a reason this show and the books are so well received. If you're a guy, please don't be afraid to branch out and watch new stuff like this. It doesn't have to just be girls watching this stuff. I promise you, some of the best stories in this medium are written by and aimed at women. Highly recommend to check this one out. It is absolutely one of the best villainous stories for sure. Makeine kind of took the world by storm last year and redefined the quality that we can expect from a seasonal rom-com. This was just such a great time and a really cool take on an existing popular formula. We get so many shows where everyone's after the main character and just instantly in love with them. And there was a time when I loved that sort of thing, but as I get older and watch more stuff every season, I need a little bit more. I need some substance, and Makeine actually has that. Like, even though it's got a lot of funny moments and memes, making things about how young people handle rejection and grow from that was so dope to me. Instead of having the main character be the object of their affections, he's like a counselor working through problems with them. I don't care how cool or attractive you are, everyone will be rejected at some point. The person you want won't always like you back, or you won't get the job that you want, and you'll have to learn how to deal with that. So a story that follows people in arguably the most formative period of their lives being torn down by rejection and having to pick themselves back up and grow from it was really cool. A1 of course brought great production value, the show looks amazing, and the characters are so good. Anna is going to be near the top of everyone's best girl of the year race. I said that after the first episode, and I stand by it. I really appreciate that things with she and the main character, at least from what I've seen, have stayed platonic. Not everyone needs to be dating. Let's normalize guys and girls being best friends in anime. One day things might go romantically with them, but at least let it be far down the line after they actually get to know each other and understand why they like each other, rather than just something superficial. Frieren needs no introduction, another no-brainer to have on the list, the greatest anime of all time according to my anime list, and while I don't necessarily agree with it being the best anime ever, it's definitely one of the best and was a tremendous triumph for the medium. There was a time when Madhouse were basically considered dead in the water after a bankruptcy, and they have managed to reinvent themselves and come back better than ever with arguably their magnum opus. There's so many philosophical aspects of the show, I could spend all day talking about it, but I think the most important is that the story reminds us of how fragile life is and how precious the time we have with those we love is. You ask a lot of people and they say, yeah, I'd love to live forever, and it sounds good on paper, but then you realize you'll have to watch everyone you know and love get old and die while you remain. Seeing Frieren pick up the pieces and begin to make peace with her past while embracing the future is just so poetic to me. And then there's the supporting characters. Fern and Stark could easily carry their own series on their own. They're so well developed, and you just feel part of this found family that's trying to find themselves. Madhouse of course gave incredible production values, the action is incredible, but it's the characters and the well executed simplicity of the story that makes Frieren so special. And another thing to me is the sort of across time love story with Frieren and Himmel. There's something so painful yet beautiful about realizing you love someone and not being able to tell them. So again, I don't think it's the best show ever, but it does everything well and it is highly rated for a reason. Definitely deserves to be on this list. Come on now, y'all know Apothecary Diaries had to make the list. Where to even start with this one? One of the greatest 6-month stretches in anime history with this and Frieren. We ate good. Mao solving cases and unraveling conspiracy theories in the Rear Palace just got better and better every episode. The drama, comedy, and subtle romance, I don't know if there's ever been a more me-coded show. Now, what do I mean by that? Well, I hate shows where characters get together quickly. I mean, there's a few exceptions like Tonakawa and a couple romance shows airing this season actually, but generally I like angst, I like build-up, teasing, and I don't like the romance being the main focus either. Again, there's exceptions. There's shows I like where couples do get together at the start, but Apothecary Diaries just gets me. It's the perfect recipe that I look for, and I love that so much. Jinshi and Mao are from two different worlds, and he's obviously got a thing for her, but it's just these gradual seeds being sown throughout and how he yearns for her and she's having none of it that just make the story so fun to watch. But of course you can envision her eventually coming around to him, and then there's all the lore and mystery with their origins. Lots of theories out there about Jinshi's possible parents. I have the first few books but haven't read it yet, so please don't spoil it in the comments. But then you have Mao and her backstory that we got at the end of last season, which was absolutely incredible. That 4 or 5 episode stretch was just peak. The murder and crime solving, this just had it all. And I know I've said that a lot, but this is legit everything that I'd want in an anime. Not to mention it looks great and it's just funny as hell. What more could you want, really? No brainer to be on this list. I'm sure season 2 will be on 2025's list as well, since it's off to an amazing start right now. The sleeper hit and my pick for anime of the year, it's gonna be a little surprising, is Yatagarasu. It's absolutely criminal how under the radar this one flew, pun intended, as a 2-core show. An example of failed marketing from Crunchyroll, to be honest. This was one of the most intriguing stories I've seen and the first show in a long time to actually throw me off with twists and reveals. Every week it felt like my jaw was on the floor. Most anime these days are so predictable. They follow a pretty safe pattern. You know who's good, who's bad, and what the big conflicts are going to be about. But this author knows how to play with your expectations and baits and switches so much, making you reevaluate everything you thought you knew about the world. It was perfectly paced, the characters were so well written, perfect mix of drama, romance, action, and political jockeying. This has a little bit of everything and it's driven by the amazing characters. And that's kind of another thing it has in common with Apothecary Diaries and Raven of the Inner Palace. All these series have well-written characters who feel unique and alive, and you just want to see them get a good resolution. And I've said all of that without mentioning the awesome story with the politics, classism, and eternal threats to the stability of the kingdom. This show is great and I can't fully do it justice in a short video, but feel free to check out my longer review for it on my anime list. If you like historical fantasy, I'm sure you'll love this one. Alright, so a few honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list but are still amazing and I wanted to share. Sengoku Youko was absolutely incredible. To me, this is the gold standard of battle shonen. Written by the same author as Lucifer and the Biscuit Hammer, but 1,000 times better, at least as an anime. This was one of those epic shonen adventure series we used to get a lot back in the early 2000s, late 90s, and it just took me back to the good old days of anime. I loved how it kind of had two stories in one. The first core focuses on Jinka and Tama's story, and then we get a cliffhanger and come back in the second season, which is technically what aired in 2024. And we have a new main character in Goal, and then it ultimately connects back to the first core. It's just a really well-written epic story in feudal Japan with a ton of Japanese folklore, cool fights, and great characters. Plus, I got my happy ending since all my ships sailed. It is a shame it got so slept on. Really, the only negative that it has is that White Fox were clearly more focused on ReZero Season 3 than this in the second core, and it didn't get as much love animation-wise as it should have, but still, great show. As promised, you gotta talk about Girls Band Cry a bit. So like I said earlier, Yorukura was the better story for me, but Girls Band Cry is the better music anime, if that makes sense. The band performances were incredible, not just animation wise, but lyrically. Like, there were some genuine bangers from this that I've listened to a ton. There's also some of the best 3D CGI ever in the medium in this show. I hesitated a little to watch it because it was 3D, but one of my homies was adamant that I needed to check it out, and I'm glad I did because I didn't regret it. The movements are so fluid and designs look so good that you don't even notice it's 3D after the first few minutes or so. Girl Band Cry's story had a ton in common with Yorukura. Same deal with girls escaping trauma, coming together to form a band. Nina's in particular was really good to me. I think she was such a cool, flawed lead. Like, she does so much stuff that makes you want to yell at the screen, but then you remember that she's a teenager and she's gonna make dumb choices. It kind of endeared her to me a bit more. The one big issue I had with Girls Band Cry compared to Yorukura, and I touched on it earlier, is that it baited the hell out of us with the Yuri. That's low-key probably why I didn't have it in the top 10. We got a confession and it went nowhere. Like, what are we doing here? But this is still a must-watch, don't get it twisted, and hopefully we get more to the franchise. I know some of the members have been on hiatus for a while, but please give us more Girls Band Cry. No one licensing this until recently was also such a bizarre move. It is on Crunchyroll now, so if you want to check it out, feel free to do so. And the very last show we're going to be talking about is Oshinoko Season 2. Now, for a lot of people, the Tokyo Blade arc, which was covered in this season, was the peak of the manga. I didn't really feel that way, to be honest, but Doga Kobo made me see the vision in this series. This not only did the manga justice, but took the story to new heights. They added anime original scenes to make things flow better, tweaked some stuff with the play, and seeing it animated with arguably some of Doga Kobo's best ever production value just did wonders for me. Not to mention my baby Akane got so much shine in this season. I used to be on the fence with Kana and Akane, and the last year or so has had me wondering how that was ever the case. I'm firmly an Akane stan at this point, and this was the arc where she came out of her shell and really snatched that best girl role. There was a 4 or 5 episode stretch of this season where Doga Kobo were just going peak for peak. There was the build up to and the climax of the play and the visualization of Akane, Kana, and Aqua's different acting styles. But then you got that big twist at the end and Ruby going all revenge mode. It was just amazing. And season 3 is going to be even better. That's going to be the best part of the story, in my opinion. And I know Oshinoko is a bit of a sensitive topic right now because of the manga, and it should be because that ending was horrible. But the anime was great, and the live action, which just recently aired, was also great. I believe that's on Amazon Prime. Highly recommend checking that one out. I think that's pretty underrated as well. All right, so we talked a lot. There were so many great anime last year. I couldn't go over everything, but you can always check me out on my anime list and of course on Twitter, where I do write-ups for most of the seasonals if you want to see what I'm enjoying or watching in any given season. And I want to hear from y'all. What did you think was the anime of the year? Any surprises or gems? Just be nice down in the comments. Sometimes people see me leave off a show and they think that it means I don't love it. I watch 150 shows a year, so narrowing it down to 10 just takes forever. I promise there's more shows I like that I just didn't talk about in this. Again, thanks for watching, and be sure to subscribe so you don't miss my winter 2025 what to watch video. Happy New Year, everybody, and I will catch y'all on the next one. Peace.